Discussion, I'd like to add historic courthouse artifacts that was presented to us by, was this the,
Dave gave that to me.
I mean, who
I asked
actually-
them to make a list when we went on the tour of what they wanted.
who to make a list of historics?
The historical preservation.
And the Historical Society.
Okay.
It's the historical.
They were there
Society
too,
as well.
yes.
Okay. Is there any other additions or corrections?
I have not, and make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
It's been approved and second that we approve the agenda as amended. Further discussion, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. County Attorney General discussion.
What questions we have?
Uh,
You give me something that I hate when you do it.
Well-
Okay, what's the question?
And this can wait till next week too,
Okay.
if it need
All
be,
right.
but I think when, you know, there's a lot of stuff on that page. This is all county property. And I don't think there's no money changing hands, but
Question is, can you give it to them?
can we give it to them?
My initial response is yes, but let me check to make certain that you can.
Because we had people go through to do the bid process, to bid on things that they wanted, and no one bid on anything, so.
Okay? Nobody bid on anything, huh?
well,
Somebody got some fire extinguishers besides
Oh.
that, but no.
I paid for the fire
Yeah,
extinguisher.
he did.
I thought somebody would bid on something.
No one showed up.
Somebody showed-
The other thing on this too, I mean, if it's okay, we do give that, then there also needs to be a timeline when this stuff will be removed and removed from the premises also.
Right.
I mean, this can't drag on for, you know,
Don said they have to be removed by next week, Tuesday.
okay. well,
Oh, by
we
next
got-
week, Tuesday?
That's what
we
Don
better
said.
be talking about it today then.
Yeah.
I have no problem taking that stuff, but I see there's a couple pallets of bricks. I don't know how you're gonna get those by next week, Tuesday.
Well, he said some things will have to be, that'll be part of the you know, the,
We
the-
said everybody's already gone through there, nobody bid on anything. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I mean, we're not gonna have a board meeting before next Tuesday.
Well, the only thing is, that I don't mind giving it to these people and that, but I'd sure like them, that they no longer continue to badmouth the supervisors publicly and that. We're trying to work with them and. Is that under?
I have expressed my thanks to the supervisors for, allowing preservation of some of the historic artifacts, and,
well, I guess what we'd like to
No.
see is that we'd be allowed to let this project proceed and not have any more stonewalling and articles to the effect that, oh, that old courthouse can be fixed up. and-
I can't control what other people will
I
write.
know, Penny, you can't.
I mean, don't attribute, what other people write to me.
Tell them that, so. But-
I have photographed all the little items, including every little tin can and everything. I'll create a document that you will have of everything that was removed, so you have a document of it. And until a display gets set up somewhere, it'll just be in storage.
Okay, that's great. I
At the
mean,
museum. The museum has custody of it.
Right, but until they have a place,
Right.
create a place, it's gonna take a while, so.
But it's already gone from county custody to county
Right,
custody. I mean, it's
right.
not in anybody's possession.
As long as we're all on the same page, I guess that's what I want to be understood. I mean, and what else was all on there? I guess I never did see that.
Samples of all the woodwork and old lamps and the banister and an old door and the clerk of court's vault door that's not being brought to the new building and some old plat maps and the old bank safe. Is that about most of it? And the cupola and the extra windows for the cupola that were in the attic.
Who's gonna pay for the cupola to come down?
I think Don had said that could be part of the contractor thing, but when we talked about it at the last meeting. The county wanted it given to them.
Say they wanted it, get it down themselves.
Well, when it comes down, they're going to need to have a truck, but they're ready to take it away, so.
It's gonna involve a crane, and I don't think there's a crane needed to demolish the courthouse. It's gonna cost a lot of money to get that off there. And that needs to be understood. There are no guarantees it's gonna come down to one piece. It could fall apart. You know, the cost of bringing a crane.
Is that what was in Dunn's? Is that in the specs for taking down the courthouse?
I don't know what he had for the pre-bid, I wasn't there.
He told me it could cost $20,000. One of the contractors says, that's gonna involve a crane, and he says, we don't need a crane to take the rest of this down.
Do you guys wanna check into that?
It'd be a lot cheaper to build a replica of it than to get involved in that.
That gonna be done, taken down by next week?
No, he said that'll be when they
Oh,
do
that's
the
part of the
demolition.
project.
Yeah. No, he just said the
That's up to
other
you three
things.
to decide you wanna go for that extra cost.
I guess my feeling is when we were giving it to whoever wanted it, I guess earlier on, there was somebody interested in buying it. But I think that's since gone by the wayside. I guess we need to maybe, I need to talk to Don, I don't know what's going on with this. I mean, and how much more is that gonna add to the contract?
And that's what he said last
What is the
Wednesday
plan?
at noon this evening.
What's the plan to do with the old cupola or lantern or whatever you wanna call it?
We're checking out possible locations. The fairgrounds, I've got a call to the fair board, and they're gonna get back to me. The Cedar Valley Memories, they're gonna get back to us. But you know, the concept is it should be in a public space, and it would be sort of a way to just do there could be one of those informational signs like we did at David. There could just be a way to, you know, recognize the courthouse and create a little kind of courthouse display thing. So, and I'm thinking, he talked about demolition perhaps starting in January, so it sort of happens. We're trying to track down a place fairly soon,
Okay,
but it would be a public place. It would be a,
well, let me see what I can find out. Report back next week.
the idea was maybe to turn one of the windows into a door so people could enter it. We have those spare windows, if windows get broken, but, you know, some people, oh, it'd be a great place for wedding pictures. It would be, you know, people are getting all excited with ideas. But, you know, there's a lot of work between concept and getting it done. Well, yes, work and money. So-
Is there anybody that's gonna be donating towards this?
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, you
But
guys.
I don't know if we could get $20,000, but there's gonna be a lot of money just involved in the, you know, the placement, the getting it, you know, fixed up, yeah.
And that's just an estimate, there could be a lot more,
I wouldn't know until the bids come in.
you know.
I guess we better double check on the bids or to see if that is a
It'll be an add-on.
option. If it's an option item that,
He put it in the demo.
yeah, I mean, it's so much to do, demo the courthouse, and if you wanna save the cupola, it's this much extra. I mean, if that's part of the way it's being bid, or,
Is that what that is?
This, no, this is just the 127th walkthrough.
so you're gonna check with Don on that, okay?
Find out how they're writing that up. I mean, it's, all they.
What it-
That was my
Because time is somewhat of the essence, would it be important that maybe we meet before next Tuesday to explain what's happened, or?
We could. Let me find out, I'll call Don today and see what's going on with that.
If we could schedule a regular meeting then here in the next day or two. Of course, Thursday is, we're all gonna be gone Thursday, and,
Friday.
Could be Friday morning.
yeah, I just guess I'm available Friday. Not that I have to be here. Oh, no. Anything else for the county attorney or Mark or what do you?
Well, I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on, so I'll just ask. Lowell had sent me this notice of hearing yesterday and asked, if it was in the paper by the 11th, is that enough time for this hearing on the 17th? And so I got, Lowell and I had been exchanging emails with FEH Associates. And are you going to be doing plans and specifications under Iowa Code 26 for public improvements, public bidding? Is that what you're thinking? Because I don't understand why this has to be published.
That was something the FEH had brought.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess I'm confused as to what's going on.
But, yeah,
So they think you're gonna proceed under chapter 26, which is a public construction bid, for the deconstruction or demolition.
but isn't there something in 26 too that's about maintenance or demolition?
No, you see, I don't think this is covered by public bidding. That's my opinion. Because Iowa Code 26 used to be Iowa Code 23. And 23 specifically said construction or demolition. When they revised it to Iowa Code 26, they took that out, and it says public improvement means the building or construction work which is constructed under the control of government entity. So it's talking about construction, and excluding urban renewal, demolition, low rent projects, and so, I mean, they knew how to say demolition or destruction because it was in the previous code section. So I'm just, if they want to proceed under 26, that's fine, but then there's all these requirements that you have all your plans, and you have public bidding, and you have a licensed engineer, and a landscape architect, and an architect under Iowa Code 554A. Prepare plans,
Well, they are all that.
okay?
They are landscape architects and
So they're gonna proceed under 26.
that's probably just their normal way of going
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, this, I don't see that this one for the 17th actually needed to be published. If they want to be safe rather than sorry, that's fine, but then you're going to have publish in the paper for competitive bids, right?
I think they already did that.
That has been done?
That's what this walkthrough was all about.
Yeah.
So all the
That
contractors
took
showed
place
up.
last Tuesday.
Okay, but that was all,
Wednesday,
that was all published.
Yes, yes.
And then when are you opening the bids?
They're gonna be open next Tuesday afternoon and then for action on the 17th.
Okay, so you've got the 4 and 45-day notice on that. That was published in the paper.
Yes.
Okay, all right, makes a little more sense to me
And,
now.
and long as, because of Thanksgiving last week, I sent on Wednesday afternoon. The newspaper said that was too late, so, because of the holiday. But since we can do the 4, if they publish it, the 11th will be okay.
It's an odd notice, it's a 4 and 45. It's
Okay.
one of the few places that you got that
Okay.
big window on it. So, okay.
And they wanna have that Don said they wanted to have that before they had the actual award
Yeah.
of the bids.
And that, over caution, it's fine, I just don't think it was necessary, now it at least makes sense to me.
But yeah, he wanted me to run it by you. and-
Yeah, it makes sense now.
Okay.
So, okay?
But yeah,
Thank
this
you.
would fall under urban renewal demolition, I believe, because we did stick it under urban renewal.
Yeah, so it's specifically excluded from chapter 26. So in reality, you don't have to go through the public bidding if you don't want to.
There's so many things going on, sometimes you gotta stop and think, what
Well,
are we talking about?
It's always better safe than sorry.
Right, so-
And this
You know,
is a
if you
new
don't
thing.
have to do it and you do it, what's the big deal? Costs you $3 to publish it, who cares? All right?
Well, the big thing is, we got a lot of balls. I mean, we got the Valen thing that we're trying to do hearings and money
You
on.
don't
We
have to
got,
tell me. That's why
Who said that again?
sometimes I get left out of the loop on some of these, and then I find out afterwards, and it's just,
Well, we don't try to intentionally leave you
Yeah, I
out, but we
know.
don't wanna give you,
I
you know, just
understand.
keep you in the,
I understand.
Yeah.
So,
so,
okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
You know my number, you know my email.
Yes. Tom, BBC project update.
Okay, first things first, we've got a progress meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Valent only. So if anyone wants to come to that, you certainly can. On to where we're at, start the Osage wastewater plant. They had constructed one end of those big ditches that's being built, they've got that stripped, they're forming the other end of that right now. They're also gutting the sludge storage tank. I mentioned last time that the city of Osage has been great working with the contractor, going out of their way to help take care of a bunch of stuff. We're hoping by the end of this week, all that work's done, and we're out of the city's hair. And the long-term forecast for the wastewater plant is these guys are gonna work all winter long. They're gonna tent their stuff, they're gonna build temporary shelters, whatever it happens to be, and they're just gonna keep on cruising all winter long. So it'll be a little bit slower than normal, but they're not gonna stop. Once they get the end of the ditch poured, they'll fill the two pieces in together, and they'll start working on internals, and everything's just gonna keep on going. So that's going real well. Out at the Valent pre-treatment plant, we've got them guys, their sanitary sewer service, so that's all up and running. They're using their toilets and everything inside Valent. We've got one last pour on some outside structures coming up. The building supposedly is gonna show up in the next 2 weeks. They'll start erecting that thing. If that doesn't come, those guys are starting to run out of stuff to do because they've got most of their outside work done. So if the building can show up in a couple weeks, they start erecting that, then they'll be working all winter too. So schedule-wise, things are looking great. I have no issues with that whatsoever. On to the operational maintenance. You know, once this plant starts up, Valent's gonna pay a fee associated with what it costs to operate that thing. I put together a draft version of that last week. I gave it to the city. They need to fill in the upper portion of it. The upper portion of it has to do with labor costs. I don't know the breakdown between FICA, IPERS, and all stuff like that. I know what the wages are that we have to have for the employees. So Kathy, Penny, and Jerry are going through and taking care of the administration portion of that. Once that's done, I've been in contact with Kathy and Brenda, and I think sometime next week they're shooting for a get-together. I told her that you wanted to be part of that, Joel, so everybody's aware of that. The city wants to be part of that too, so I'll remind those guys this week that we should look at a date sometime next week. And what that'll be is basically we'll sit down with whoever, I don't know who it's gonna be, Tom Green and plant manager, whoever. We'll go over the list of items that we have on that, just so they're aware of what we all have encompassed in this thing. And I've got a couple questions. When I set up budgets, we set up a collection budget for replacement of some equipment 10 years from now. All right, that's because most places don't have $200,000 just sitting around to replace something when it comes time without priming for this. We're gonna leave it up to Valent to chime in on stuff like that. If they wanna pay for stuff, let the city bank it, and then use that money when it breaks down, or does Valent want to all of a sudden get a $200,000 bill when that piece of, we're gonna leave that part up to them. I don't know how they wanna manage their money, you know, anything like that. I think they'd wanna be a little bit more forward thinking on it, but you know how some people are, it's kinda like escrowing your taxes. You got those folks out there that just don't want anybody to have their money except for them until the time comes, okay? And that's fine. We just gotta let Valent make some of those decisions. So there's a number of items on there that have to do with what I call sinking fund for, you know, equipment placement later on, that we'll let Valent make a choice whether they want to let the city bank it up for them, or they want to get a big bill someday when they gotta replace it. So those are the kinds of things that we gotta discuss with Valent. You know, the labor and electrical costs, they are what they are. And we'll get that all worked out, but so that'll be coming. Any questions about anything on that? Like I said, Joel.
Well, in the end, there needs to be some kind of document written as to which way they're gonna go with
Yep.
that. And because, you know, 10 years down the road, and when so-and-so's retired and this new guy's on the,
I think what should happen is that whatever transpires this meeting, that their treatment agreement be modified, because there's a treatment agreement in place now. but it'd be modified to have the clause in there that revolves around capital improvements or sinking funds or whatever you want to call it. That way, yeah, it'll be in the agreement. So, well, you know, you guys said the city could bank your money, or you guys said you would pay major capital costs when they were incurred. So, but yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it, is to just amend the treatment agreement and call it good. That way, it is what it is, and everybody knows what it is. So, but that'll be one of the, probably the big conversational points, is to find out how they want to manage your money. Other than that, like I said, everything's going great.
There's a lot to be talked about on that, because,
Oh, yeah.
but if it's the county's responsibility, then we want a sinking fund.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if
And then we would probably be required, wouldn't we?
not necessarily, because then my life would be a lot easier than it normally is. Because I'd walk into every public entity and I'd say you do wastewater plants, like, huh, we've been saving that money for 20 years. That never happens. So generally speaking, no. Most people, cities, anybody,
It seems
they're
like
reactive, not proactive.
When the city did the 2000 or 1998 or whatever.
Depends on the funding. Some
Right.
funding sources may require,
Right.
especially if they're grant monies, state monies, that's not what's funding this project.
Okay.
So it's gonna require, USDA is a big one for that. So if we ever use USDA money, yes, we have to have
Sinking fund.
capital seeking
You have
funds.
to have at least a year's.
Well, that, yeah, you have to have at least a year's worth of operational maintenance in the bank, but then you also have to bank up for what they call short-lived assets. And again, a lot of public funding, like back in the 80s when wastewater was a big deal and everybody's building wastewater plants, that funding mechanism had built-in sinking funds to it. But once we've got past that stuff now, you know, the state revolving loan fund that we have nowadays doesn't require any of that. So,
What's the most expensive piece of equipment in our pre-treatment?
you know what? If I were to label what things were consumable, it's only pumps. When I say that, there are some $100,000 pumps in there. Okay, they're 75 horsepower. They're big boys. They run continuously for mixing the big tanks out there. They have a motor and a wet end, so they don't break together. But still, it's probably, if any one part failed at a time, it could be a $60,000 bill. And it will. It's a mechanical deal. I mean, a pump cannot last forever. It's just not possible.
And so in the startup, there's a year's warranty on everything, or?
Yeah, well, we'll have the manufacturer's warranty, which will range from 1 year to 5 years prorated, and then we'll have a 2-year bond on the project besides. So the first 2 years really shouldn't have any issues. But beyond that, I guess, the way things are made nowadays, who the heck knows?
Then the other thing is, when the place is up and running, and one of these $100,000 pumps go out, do we have one on the shelf, or do we have to wait 2 weeks to get one?
Now, most of the time, I don't recommend that because big motors and big pumps sitting around are bad on bearings and bad on seals. And what usually happens is we yank that sucker off the shelf after 5 years, we put it in, it leaks everywhere. So, yeah, the nice thing about the motors, for example, those we can get anywhere. They're just standard electric motors. They're not special in any way, shape, or form. The other good thing about it is that everything in this plant is redundant.
Well, that's one.
So if we do lose a pump, we're running on the second one, we don't have to rush, okay? It'd be nice if it got fixed within 60 days, but it doesn't have to be fixed tomorrow. So we've got that flexibility is every piece of equipment out there. So there's no issues there. That's the rules that we follow, even though they're not really applicable to pre-treatment plant. But the big thing is that when it fails, is the money gonna be on hand? Or are we gonna have to bill them guys and get the money right away? I like it to be on hand, but, you know, I think as far as being a good neighbor to them guys, we need to let them say a little bit of how they use their money. It's no different than, like I said, escrowing your property tax or something.
Yeah.
So, I guess it is, since they're a big company, that their own operational maintenance fund has a built-in reserve, that it's just second nature for them to do it. So, I'm not super concerned about it, but I think it's a talking point.
Needs to be talked about.
So the city's looking at that this week. I'll talk with Brendan and Kathy, see what they want to do to set up a meeting with the Valent guys, and I'll let you know what's going on.
Appreciate it.
And we'll just kind of keep moving forward with that. I got nothing else. Like I said, progress meeting tomorrow at 9, Henkel Trailer. Be there.
I know which one it is. I won't be there. I have it.
Uh-huh. So, that's it.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir?
One, are you in a hurry to leave?
Nope.
Okay, I wanna talk to you after
Okay.
I get done. Two, do you know when, at the plant itself, and maybe it's something I need to ask the Valent people,
The
when
Valent
are they
plant or
gonna
my
be,
plant?
the Valent plant,
Okay.
since you guys have done some work
In
out
a little
there?
bit.
Okay, so maybe it's something I need to ask
Oh,
them.
go ahead. What-
As to when are they, we've got that level C road out there, do we need, do we need to have that a level C gated road anymore, I guess is my question. You know, all the major stuff's done, all the big equipment's in, right? I mean, they're,
Well, we have big equipment coming in. yet.
okay, so you guys.
And our stuff will probably be, we got 6-month lead times, a lot of this stuff. It's been ordered, so we're looking at probably April or May before we get our last big stuff in. You know, the building's gonna be coming next month. Then we got larger pieces of equipment that'll be coming this spring.
All right, I mean, there's no hurry, I just wondered if we needed to still keep it.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that after June, I mean, Valent's gonna be up and running like at 30%, so they're gonna be pretty much done.
All right.
We're gonna have all our big stuff in and doing all the finish up work for the next couple months after that, so I would say after June, we're gonna be.
I don't think we worry about that for another stuff. I know the road's pounded out now, so.
But I'll hang around for you.
Yeah, I wanna
Okay.
talk about something else.
Well, is there, I mean, basically, is there a need to really keep the road locked?
I don't know if there is anymore, I know the biggest question that Valent
Big
had
box,
was,
I wouldn't think.
Because of, you know, to begin with, you had wire and stuff that could be stolen and so on. I mean, is there really stuff anymore that can be stolen, or is that all under secure? I mean, you know, because then we could change it
Are
from
they
a
even
Class C
locking
to a
anything?
Class B.
Right. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you guys that, I don't know what's going on at Valent, but as part of my contract, the contractor's responsible for his own security. Not you,
No,
or
no.
you guys. So if Valent's done, it's not my project that keeps the gates locked, so that's no problem there.
well, we were just trying to work with them because of all of the construction traffic they had in and out and 2 shifts and everything else. It was an agreement that we made with them to kind of limit the amount of local traffic and the rubberneckers from always being in the way, but we're to a point now where I don't think there's a lot of big activity in and out there.
I'll tell you what, Rich.
I'll talk to my contact there.
Okay, and I can
just didn't know.
when I email Kathy and Brenda about getting together with Valent for this whole operation maintenance thing, I can drop it too. The county's wondering, what about road security anymore?
Well, I can talk to them too. I just was curious whether how much involvement you had with them, because you guys did site layout and things like that, didn't you?
Yeah, it's been pretty minimal. They're
Okay.
secretive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, show up at a meeting you're not supposed to be at, and they ask you.
Just show me your credentials.
They have a ton too. I said I was looking for the tons meeting, and they threw me in a conference room, and they're like, "What are you here for?"
All right. Well, I got nothing else.
Okay,
See you guys next time. What else I for Rich?
Yeah, thanks.
thank you kindly. Let's drop down to item 5, county engineer update.
Well, I've got your stuff that you made to take for the meeting, just kind of what we have determined. It's not a lot, it kind of deals more with the flood than anything else, but, we've got some
Yeah, that way Shannon can kind of update everybody a little bit. Just kidding.
public speaking, right?
I don't care about speaking in front of people, but
No.
you are the chair. Like, you would do it.
Yeah, but
Then.
if you don't go, then who's acting chair? Maybe it. Think of it that way. So anyway, it's probably smaller than most years, but the flood was big enough for us to deal with, so.
Yeah, that was enough.
We are, getting ourselves out of the water on 450th Street on that pipe project there, so we're making some progress on that. We're hoping that, we can get most of our grout to the spring line by tomorrow, because after tomorrow, the bottom falls out of everything and we're cold again, but if we can get the grout up high enough, we can do some stuff out of the water, and if it freezes, it freezes, I guess we'll be okay to do some of our other stuff. So, that one's progressing. We're, looking for survey on Lime Kiln maybe late this week, early next week, just to get our right-of-way located on that. Streamlining those shop plans a little bit. I've got a couple samples from other counties that have done something. I gave you guys a stack, and you hadn't gotten it, but a while ago I gave you a stack of some pretty complicated specs and stuff like that that maybe we don't need to have as far as detailing. It was a while ago. But
It's been quite a while ago.
well, it was. It was a pretty thick stack of kind of copied what we had done before, and I've seen some other county specs that were a lot less detailed and leaving it more up to the contractor and the building supplier to address most of that stuff. So I think I want to thin it down. It might be easier to bid out that way, kind of leave, give them an idea of what we're looking for the main thing, layouts and things, but leave most of the other details. We want insulated windows, that's obvious, but we really need to specify an R factor. Insulated windows are gonna come with an R factor that's probably acceptable to us, so we don't need to specify what brand of light we want. We can't really, but, just to say we're equal, we want lights and here's where we're at. So we'll work on some of that stuff to minimize how much specific petty detail we really need. So, right now we're working on our ER projects from the flooding to go to the federal highway. They gotta be bid through the DOT. We finally have some time to get those plans. They're just those two projects. One will be the bridge approaches on Turtle Creek over by Sanders, 105, the bridge approach and guardrail there. And then the only other ER project, I'm piggybacking them with that concrete slab approach north of Meyer. They were the only projects on federal aid routes that required any work beyond that were FHWA applicable. We still have other stuff that's all FEMA related, so.
Back to the county shop, maybe it wouldn't hurt, once you kind of get an idea where you're at with plans and specs and this and that, why don't you sit down with Dave? Just because, Dave has been really good on going through our courthouse plans and so on. Some of the question, no, Dave Heil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And, things like, again, lighting. Dave is gonna understand what really, we don't want 480,
No.
480,
I'm thinking T8 6-bulb light fixtures. And
but just to go through some of that, because Dave has done a really good job on, pardon?
Is he gonna do maintenance on their stuff?
No, not necessarily,
He
but.
does maintenance on the rest of the county stuff. He researches lights and.
We've done some upgrading already with our lights in our shop because those big sodium bulbs in the shop they're expensive for one, they're junk number two, so we've been slowly replacing them and they've given us better lights. We've gone to.
Don't you try to get them all the same standard so they're?
Yeah, we
replaceable
experimented
everywhere?
with some T5 bulbs and they're like the size of your pinky and they're really bright, but they're a little bit more expensive yet, so we've kind of converted from that to T8s, get rid of the floodlights and give us some better lighting.
I think two electricians will want to give you that.
Well, and I asked, we have I can't think of who the supplier is. There's an electrical, Crescent Electric out of Dyersville, I think. They gave me a lighting layout for a certain size bulb for so many height, they give you the lumens of area. So I got kind of a light layout from those people, whether you're using their light or somebody else's. But yeah, we can.
Dave is also gonna understand the heating system, what really tends to be efficient here, what's easy to work with, what isn't.
I just don't see him doing shop.
No,
the shop, why would Dave have to?
We'll-
do stuff?
No, but he has knowledge of,
we can sit down
the ball
and maybe
doesn't
an
get
idea,
dropped.
because we'll have to have our radiant heat on the ceiling like we normally do. I'm still a little skittish about the floor heating because that's gonna be kind of spendy. I'm not sure if it's something that really benefits us or not. I've heard it both ways. I've had some county shops say that they'd never do it again.
I'd never do it in our garage.
So it all depends. And then I had to move our salt shed from one location on there because of that flood.
Our
I
drain
wanted to get
stinks
that
out
on the flood.
dries out
We can do
completely.
other storage down in that corner, so we're messing around with that.
That reads all the water, although it's, there's drains all the time.
We're also working with conservation on their trail project yet, which has been kind of a mess as far as the requirements to turn this. We're slowly getting that done. We've got FEMA coming in today. We're gonna discuss our other bridge yet that's still closed. And I wanna talk, I got an email out to the engineers, they haven't responded yet on when I can get my estimate for pre-flood dollars. And I also wanna discuss a little bit about the possibility of whether or not it can be restricted to, if we put a 3-ton limit on it.
Is that
car
no
users.
bull, is
That's
that,
no bull,
okay, I was gonna ask you about that.
We're gonna take our barricades, our staggered barricades, up here at the intersection and move them further down the road because plowing that road's gonna be too difficult with those. And we've got advanced warning, we're gonna put a sign up in the road, in the ditch, road closed ahead, we'll move our barricades down where we won't be plowing. So at least they're not in our way for pollen.
And if we put an embargo on there, then if
If
somebody
we-
drives over it that's bigger than that, it's their problem.
Well, technically,
They've been
yeah,
told.
if it's embargoed and it collapses, somebody takes a semi over it, then they don't know where to leave the posted grid, so. Not that we want anything to happen.
They usually buy us a bridge, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we still know where Garth's Bridge is at.
So, not that we want that to happen. Are you guys still interested in doing a county tour of roads to discuss? I know budgeting's coming up soon. You guys wanna do a county, you brought it up before about doing a road trip and looking at roads and whatnot to discuss, and
I mean, we
are you,
used
do you
to.
feel like it or not? I guess it's up to you.
Well, I mean, truthfully, when I first got on the board every year, the board of supervisors went with Hyde and we basically looked at, we'd spend 3-4 hours out and about, taking a look at, you know, this is,
Yep.
this road looks like it should be good for so many years, this is having a problem here, this and that, I mean, that we actually,
Yeah, you guys.
visually get to inspect once in a while where our
There's not a
issues are
problem
at.
with that, it's just trying to schedule something to look at it. I mean,
I've traveled every inch of my district, so it's up to you guys. I mean, to know more
Well,
what
to
you're
look
looking
at-
at for stuff, but I
to
mean,
look at
take pictures.
countywide and prioritize a little bit, I mean, I kinda know where we're at for priority wise as far as where we need to go, and, you know, I keep looking at the road we've got planned for STP next year, and I don't know, maybe we've got another one that needs to be bumped up before that one. We just don't, you know, it's good to look at it and take a tour, and if you guys are interested, then we can schedule something, it can't be next week, cause I'm gone from Tuesday
Well, how
night.
soon do we have to have this tour?
We don't have to have it right away, but I mean, we've gotta start looking at,
January or something?
we've gotta look at
We
the
don't have a
budget.
lot of snow
Yeah,
issues.
but then there's snow.
Right, we've got budget, but I mean, when I go through my budget, construction's usually the last thing that gets put into the budget because it's usually what we have left in money. So, if we're only allowed so much money.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of weeks left in this month.
So, it doesn't have to be done right away, like I said, but just, I know we had talked about it before, we'll get to the point where we probably should do something, if you're still interested, so.
Well, you know, you may understand where all of your problems are in your roads, but
But compare
that doesn't
yours.
mean Joel and I understand it, and we're 2/3 of the vote, so.
But we're 100% of the county roads.
But you know what I'm saying?
I know.
But, we really have to have,
There you go.
I mean, we all have to have an understanding of where the problems are at.
Then we're all looking at the same thing at the same time, I don't have a problem with that, we just need to kind of schedule, I thought I'd bring it up, so. We can talk about it later.
How many bridges do we still have closed?
We have, the one on Primrose, the dog leg up north of Statesville, it's been closed for a couple of years now because we've just, it's a low
Okay.
volume road. We've got that one, and we've got Noble and 370th yet that we just recently closed, and then, the one we're working on 450th there, that,
So basically,
Well,
3
three.
bridges closed yet?
Yep.
Okay.
What about that one on Primrose, that low,
yeah.
what's the plan for that?
Well, now that I've got 3 pipes sitting in the yard, I got it, you know, we've got those 3 extra pipe now sitting in there, we can use them, or, it's funny now that, now that I'm not scrounging around for rail car pipe, they got masses of them.
Oh, yeah.
They got 4 9.5 footers that I could get for 42 feet long, I'm like, hell, if I only had them about 3 months ago, but whatever, I mean, we're,
Well, how much are they?
they're probably gonna be $11,000-12,000 each, so I mean, we've already gotten, just in the last, these 3 bridges plus our 3 stockpile, we've got, you know, $90,000 to $100,000 just in rail pipe in 2 months, and the budget's thin right now until we get an amendment, but, the plan is to, when we get caught up, is to get that one, you know, I've been contacted by the hog confinement facility down there, and they said, we don't care if you ever open it up again. And I haven't heard much from the neighbors to the north, although I think they would probably like to be able to go south on that gravel. But they've got they got a couple different ways out because they own property with wind tower roads on it, so they can go down their wind tower road, they're always maintained. If they're on, it's on their property, that's theirs, but they're still private property. So, the plan is to try to put a low water crossing in there, and that's kinda what those 3 pipe are sitting in the yard for, is eventually get them put
The
in.
water crossing is where it's low and then it goes over the top of the bridge like that. So
We'll have
if
our
you get
pipe
high
and then we'll have
water,
a,
Water goes over the
yeah,
bridge.
when the water is high enough, for most of the time, it would never need to be a problem,
Right,
but you get those high flows.
yeah.
And Noble's proving to me to be a pain in the butt now too, with our height and our water flows through there. I'm trying to figure out what size box to squeeze in there, because I may have to extend the length of it. I don't really wanna buy right away to try to get the channel flow through there, so that's why I'm trying to figure out, maybe that's one that we do a project where we take the deck off the abutments and rebuild the abutments and set it back down. Might be the quickest, cheapest way to do it, if we've gotta go to something bigger.
Does that make a difference on the flooding on 9 and 18, you think?
I think there's another structure before them,
Whereabouts is that bridge? It's
right at the intersection.
Right up there.
It's on the other side of
On
that.
the side, on March, yep.
Yeah, just where Noble and,
Okay, that kind of.
just right there where the N is on Noble, up there. Yeah, it's right there.
There's 370 up the Nobles right
Yeah.
there.
That's where the bridge is bad?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
And right now, there's,
That goes right through the intersection, doesn't it?
well, it's just right west of the intersection.
Right.
It runs parallel to the,
But that's the creek that always floods at Highway 9 and 218 too.
that could be, but,
Couldn't dump a rail car in there.
3 won't even fit in there. That's why I'm looking at box culverts, and I think I might have to go that, well, if I do triple 14s, well then I'm doing, the existing bridge is 30 feet now. But I don't understand, when I do a certain hydraulic evaluation and I use the program for tailwater, it gives me different numbers than when I don't use numbers for tailwater.
What's tailwater?
Tailwater is the water after it comes out of the box culvert.
The dump.
Yeah, and you don't want your tailwater higher than your headwater, otherwise you got problems. So they always want you to evaluate tailwater. Typically, it's not a problem. But when I look at, even without tailwater, I'm getting numbers that I don't like seeing as far as having the headwater higher than the box. I've probably got about a foot of room I can raise the road at the intersection. I can make the intersection and the box culvert the same height, and that'll give me some more height through there, but it doesn't completely solve the whole problem. And I don't have any data as to any old bridge plans for that bridge to find out what their high water elevations were. If I had all that stuff, it would be a lot easier to design for, because I don't know whether they designed that bridge at one time for a 10-year flood or a 25-year flood. It just, there's nothing there to determine that. And usually we design for a 50-year minimum.
You know, all we ever get is 100 years.
I know.
Lately, yeah.
Every 5 years.
So, that's all I've got for you. I will be out of the country after Tuesday next week.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Jump back to the surveyors.
Mm-hmm.
Will they notify you when they're coming?
Yeah, I emailed him yesterday.
Okay, will you
Wanted to know.
notify me so
Yep.
that we can be there and,
He's just actually there to use the past survey when the property was, when the right of way
Right,
was
yeah.
purchased, just to put the locations back so we know where the
yeah, but
actual
I'd
right
still
of-
like to be there.
Yep, okay. Well, I'll go to the office and meet FEMA at 10:30. There will be we got a bill back from one of our motor graders up in Rochester, because it had a list of things wrong with it. We kind of spent $16,000.
I don't know who they get.
The
yeah.
front end needed all new bushings, the circle needed repair, the oil pan was cracked, I mean, it was just, and it had the original injectors in it, it had $9,500 in it, and injectors were cheap.
I still wanna be there.
It would
What kind
be,
of motor grader is this?
it's our bowl, one of the bowls, and I don't know if it was one of the used ones, I'd have to look back, but they're showing some age.
Nothing else in competition.
Even the newer ones?
I don't know if I don't know if that one was a Canada one or a new one.
Because, I mean, we were led to believe when we bought those that time that they should last for about 30 years.
No. Well, you know,
Been talking to other counties and they, you know,
Not
told
that-
you, like, I don't know if it was Blackhawk or which county it was, they bought three deer and 3 cat. And the cat, they're a little more money, but
well, we need to have that conversation as soon as
they
we go
last,
through.
you can look at the repairs from one to the other and
Well,
money
and
ahead with the cat.
the one thing is that the Volvos we have are still the old champion technology, and that's the toughest. And I don't think many people have bought new Volvos to know how to compare them to John Deere and Cat. And I'm not,
You still have a bunch of cats out there that are used for spares. I know the city borrowed one.
yeah,
Well,
they're last.
they keep
resort.
right on going.
Well, we
don't
still
they?
stick money into them too.
How much?
Well, we don't run them as often, so there's not a whole lot, but we stuck.
Well, just at
a
the
few $1,000
landfill, I
in.
can testify to that. We got deer and we got cat. Cat is by far easier.
Well, and I'm not pulling for either one. I know
No,
there's a
neither
lot of
am I.
counties that aren't running Volvo, and I guess when the Volvos come in cheaper and they get new technology.
Not
The
that
thing I don't care about Cat for is because they don't give you a steering wheel anymore and it's all joystick, and I don't,
most guys that operate them like that.
some do, but some aren't gonna, and I guess they don't have to run them.
You
then,
got
but- I know,
with the new
but
technology.
John Deere gives you the option, and so does Volvo of having both, where at certain gear
My
speed.
TV used to have 2 knobs.
Yeah.
I tuned in. Now I can do it one-handed.
Right.
Yeah, right. You can't even find it to turn it on. You know, but
We need to have that discussion
Right.
soon, because the equipment's not getting any newer,
no, I
and
don't.
we're spending more on repairs than.
And I wanna, you know, I'm not down on Deere. Deere makes great farm equipment. And I guess their construction equipment, what you use it for, but when you're day in, day out, you know, it makes
And
it.
some people tell you, all the manufacturers have service trucks running around, they all have their issues, and that's what everybody wants. You know, I'm not gonna advocate one or the other, because,
Oh, the other
Yeah,
thing,
we
too,
had
that
new
thing,
ones.
the guy told me about that, and says the fuel is so much less with the cat than it was with Deere.
there's,
So,
and to me, that's hard to determine. I mean, if you're gonna put them on a, each county is different, each county has different terrain, each motor grader has a different route that, and the operators affect on,
Different
I mean,
operators.
it's how hard do you push down the
I'm not-
board. I know, there's a lot of,
but when the time comes, I think we need to look at them, and if they're interested in selling to us, I'm sure they'd drop one off ready to use.
oh, I know, and I've had that conversation with Deere, and I've also had it with Cat, and Volvo, and I don't know if I want them all three here at the same time, because I don't want chirping about, his does this, and they
Yeah, I
need to
know.
be equal, and they need to, you know, if I could bring them in without stickers on them, I wonder if anybody would know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just,
My saying is the guy is probably could care less if it's a case, it's brand new, you know what I mean? And they make a motor grader too, but I've been kind
You've probably been following a little bit too, that the DOT chair at the state, Travatino or whatever.
Trombino.
of Trombino.
Yeah, him too. He's come up with, you know, a whole new proposal on funding road construction and that, you know, with, has your county engineers association discussed this, and where are you at with that? And
Right now, the County Engineers Association and we haven't had a discussion on it for a while, but we've always been pushing for we get federal aid dollars that come from the feds that get distributed by the DOT. And then we go bid projects, we've got all these requirements and all this red tape to cut through in order to get a project through. Or when we use farm to market, things are a little bit more streamlined. So our association has been talking with the DOT and trying to get the DOT to say, hey, why don't you guys take all the federal money and then give us our money without the Fed strings attached? And we want a one-for-one trade. We want every dollar for dollar. They say, well, no, it can't be one-for-one because we still have paperwork to do, and they wanted to do 80 to 1 or what. I mean, so we're still battling over, first of all, whether we can do it because there needs to be a code change in the state code in order to even do it. But we're still pushing for a one-to-one exchange so that we can.
Their administration fees are 20%.
Well, I don't know. Nobody's really broke down those numbers to prove that it costs more money for them. We as the association think, how hard is it? They get the money anyway, and then they distribute it to us. But because there's the federal stamp on it, there's more requirements than if it was just regular regular dollars. So we've been trying to push that equal exchange, but it hasn't really gone anywhere. And I think more people are looking at an exchange, it's just a matter of whether we can agree on a one-to-one or not. Because it costs time
But
and money
that
for
really
us. to
wasn't
push
my
it.
question. My question was, they have come up with a proposal, you know, to basically get rid of the gas tax at the pump.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Our association follows that. I haven't talked with he sends out us our updates when he goes to legislation, and I haven't seen those yet. But yeah, I know that they wanna cut the gas tax and just pay the, what do they call it?
well, there's about,
Terminal thing.
Yeah, he had a list of,
yeah, there's terminal, there's
yep,
raising,
red dye tax and everything
yeah,
else.
and auto fees from 5 to 6% when you register your car
Yep.
and, or
Just
not
did
register
a
it, I
couple years
mean,
ago, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Pardon?
Didn't
We just done that a couple years ago.
No, we're still 5% on a car.
Oh, no, when you buy them.
When you
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
them,
right.
they wanna raise that sales tax on the car.
But didn't they just raise the fees, license every
Yes,
year?
the
That was
pump,
like
yes.
10 or something?
2009, January
2009.
2009.
But yes, we have our association tracks those DOT stuff, and then we legislate for or against whether we take it back.
well, the reason I bring it up again is, I mean, again, we're, you know, basically, we're running out of monies. Construction costs keep on going up, we keep on getting the same monies, and,
Mhm.
and this has been going on for 20-some years, and it can't continue down the same
Right.
path. They've either gotta add the extra 10 cents a gallon that they were talking about on the pump, or do something,
Yeah, and
and,
it's not only but AGC and all the other contractors, organizations are all pushing for the same thing the Engineers Association is, obviously, because they've got a vested interest. If we can't create projects, they can't do them, so it's more than just ours.
And I was just curious, are we all on the same page? I mean, you know, because the Supervisors Association has a stand and so on.
Well, I would think you guys are on the same page we are as far as, yeah, we wanna push these taxes through, or user fees through.
In the dye estimate, they said is way off because there's no state numbers of how much dye fuel is sold, so it should be a lot higher.
The way to dye fuel,
Yep.
it's all taxed. Or user feed.
But yeah, I would assume that our associations are on the same page, cause I think that our legislative arm maybe even goes to your guys' meetings. I'm not positive about that, cause I'm not part of that. But we have one that does go to legislature, and he listens in on what they talk about, and he sends us a summary, I don't know if it's quarterly or whatever, and says for or against. It went through with the ATVs and all the other stuff. He listens to all that, and they say whether we're for or against, or we're on the fence right now, and we haven't heard more about it.
Okay.
Maybe it answers your question, maybe it doesn't, but we have that branch
Well,
that follows.
I mean, again, we're gonna have to be hitting not only Josh Burns, but Mary Jo Wilhelm. We're gonna have to be hitting them hard this year that they've actually gotta get something done. I mean, you can't continue to kick the can down the road year after year after year after year, and we continue to have issues, and
Well, and we're
And,
trying to be as efficient as we can, and there's only so much efficiency you can get before you're too efficient. You're not, you're not efficient. How do you want to say that? You cut too much and it's not good enough anymore.
well, we probably could save a half a person if you learn to run a motor grader,
Yeah, I'm
You
willing.
could be thinking, as you,
Put a headset on. I'm not scared to run it, I just don't know how to do it. And dang, I don't wanna pay for a lot of mailboxes.
well, you don't pay for them, you just have to put them up. No, I'm just.
I'm not scared to run equipment. Just wish I had the time, actually.
No, and like you say, we basically, back in the early 50s, we had 47 people working on secondary roads, and, we're down to,
Well, and I'm sometimes wondering if we're too thin now with all the requirements we have. It seems like sometimes we can't keep up. This flood really didn't help us. try to keep up with a lot of things, but.
And the problem is, we're gonna continue to have some floods.
Yep. And
And so you're always having that. We've talked how many years that we wanna get our signs and that straightened up.
we do, and that's the other thing I look at the most.
It's hard to
is-
do in frozen ground.
Well, not only that, but when you've got guys gone and you wanna maintain your roads, and now you've got signs, and there's thousands of them, and there's a lot of them that need fixing, and you.
Well, we really just have to possibly look at, can we get maybe 4 college kids, 2 different sign crews?
Well,
And, I mean,
I don't disagree at all, I think
Give
summer
them
we
summertime,
need
They
to
get wind and they start.
well, and that's hard to, but I think we need to get, we really need to focus on that, because when I drive around, I notice some things, and there's a lot of work orders that get put out just because I see this ain't right, this isn't right, needs to be fixed, and you get to the winter time and some of them can't be fixed till the ground thaws out, or you take a pile of salt and try to thaw the ground out with that.
How many full-time we got now?
We have 13 full-timers.
13?
Well, with the mechanic and the foreman, we've got
I always thought we were 17.
15. We have 15 full-timers, including mechanic and foreman. And then we've got the part-time coming on board for snow removal. So, if it ain't gonna snow, we don't need to worry about it.
no, but come this summer, I mean, we really
I know,
should.
I agree. I think we need to sit down and talk about.
What you need to get done and who
well,
can do it.
Right, and we haven't for a long time had, we have, everybody does everything, and I don't know if that always works. But I don't really wanna say that we wanna start divvying up and saying you're the sign crew and you're the bridge crew, because we don't have that staff. But I think some people are more well versed in some of those tasks than others, that maybe we can utilize them more in those tasks. A lot we need to look at,
We
could
could
and should look at.
We could put Charlie in front, in charge of 3 college kids, and
There you go.
I think he enjoyed retirement.
well, why don't you see what your association's saying? Like I
Yep.
say, we really gotta put some
Will you
pressure
guys
on
be
these.
discussing some of that when you guys have your meeting on Thursday, or is it just a type of meeting?
I'm sure that's gonna come up on
It's
Thursday.
just 2 supervisors probably.
In the afternoon, supposedly, we meet with legislators, although that's been getting less and less. Used to be when I started, I think there was 7 or 8 that was,
No, it's that we're sounding like a scratch record, you don't want to hear it anymore,
well, then, when we are actually having decent conversations and this and that, well, it's just an hour, let's get on it. I mean,
no,
we really should be, you know, if they're willing to stay, we should be willing to stay, and, because there's a lot of issues that affect us. And, we don't really always have good conversations neither, because it's cut way too short. and-
right. All right.
Okay, thank you kindly. Go back to item 4, approve the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Then moved in second, further discussion. Hearing none, Paulus.
Aye.
Oaklander.
Aye.
Walk, aye, motion carried. Approve NIRHA payment in lieu of taxes request. We've done this every year. Basically, they put the money back into the low-income housing. At least they tell us that's what they're doing with it.
That's what they do. I make a motion to approve the pilot request from North Iowa Regional Housing Authority in the amount of $736.55.
I'll second the motion.
Then moved in second, further discussion.
And I'll allow the chair to sign this. I guess this year they wanna, I don't know that they've ever sent that before, but.
Yeah, they have.
Oh, they have.
Further discussion. Hearing none, Oaklander.
Aye.
Paulus.
Aye.
Walk, aye, motion carried. Meetings attended.
See, recess meeting over at Cresco at the Nature Center in Howard County,
Where is that at?
2 miles south of Cresco, on kind of an angled road. Can't remember the name of the road, but it was our normal meeting. We approved the providers, approved new rates on some of the providers, and voted to take on Emmett County. Now we're 22 counties. But like the one guy said, you know, you get to visit every county about once every 2 years, so anyway, that was pretty much our meeting. It was, what we did, I guess.
Okay, I had Substance Abuse Coalition meeting, and they talked about, they're gonna do some handouts in the grocery stores about teenage drinking. And we also had some handouts that we gave to all the local pharmacies and public health and to the SHIP program to encourage people. We have a drop box at the sheriff's office for any unused or expired medications. And Greg said we don't have the big one, we have the, just one level below the big one. And he has to dump it or he has to empty the receptacle every 2 weeks. He's getting so much. People are depositing so many expired. That's excellent. It
People
prevents.
aren't taking their medication? Or
Well,
what?
like they have leftover oxycodone where where they have the abuse, where people are going to people's medicine cabinets and stealing all those odds and ends drugs. I had told them it was kind of odd because I had watched a documentary and they had made, they called it opiate fudge. They just mixed all kind of pills and that's how the kids were getting high with them. It was really bad. So that's something we need, and Greg said he's gonna start weighing it to give us a quantitative measure of how much we're getting turned in. Anything that's prescribed, they can turn in, and then they incinerate it when they burn down houses and stuff. They destroy it that way. Yeah.
No wonder
So-
math and science scores are going down, it's the fudge.
Yeah, it's a big concern, especially like, we put stickers on ours that we passed out because we got 300. We figured they'd be done by Christmas, and it's like, are you ready for your holiday guest? Because, you know, you don't think about what's in your medicine cabinet. Even Jay said he went through and had some oxycodone. He didn't remember he had in his, medicine cabinet, and you've gotta get rid of all that stuff when you're not using it because kids will take it. Go ahead, Betty.
I was gonna say, the hospital paid for the drop box. I just thought I'd
Oh,
add that,
that was
the very
before.
first one we had. And Mitchell County was the very first county to be taking prescription drugs. And they were taking them back when Kurt and Greg was in charge of the program. That was before we had the drop box, and they were just they were actually just being put on his desk. But the only place you can have the drop box is in a law enforcement place. And so the sheriff's office is a logical place, and he talked about maybe either getting another box or maybe if we could sell this one and upgrade to a bigger one. But, you know, we haven't decided what to do. But I just thought I'd let you know the hospital did buy that first one.
And it's quite the coup that we have it. So. And Prime for Life is up and running.
So if I got it back, I can run down the sheriff's
No.
office?
It's only for
Runs through.
deposits,
Here
no
looks like a good
withdrawals.
one.
That's why it has to be at the sheriff's office under 24-hour surveillance, because people steal cans out of probation.
Well, they like to prescribe a lot of that stuff. I don't know. I just know from
That's great.
history, from people I know that have had surgeries and.
But even all kinds of drugs, like my son has a nebulizer and some of his solutions are expired. What do you do with that? You don't want to just take it to the landfill and get it in the water. All those prescriptions, when they start the plastic, so he takes everything. Any kind of medicines that are expired, so.
Well, anyway, it's a good thing.
That's it, that was
That's
my
it?
one for the short week.
And I did not have anything last week. Went out to county care to sign some papers that they needed to send in. Other than that, well, that was about all. Manure management plan updates.
We have two of them, Teresa Schager, Section 12 Jenkins, and then LCH Farms, Section 16 in Union Township.
So noted. We have resolution 895-13, approving bond purchase agreement for an issuance of $6.5 million of general obligation county purpose bond serial 213A. This is for the Valent plants, is that correct, Auditor Tish?
And that's, constructing sanitary sewer treatment improvements and also repairing county roads and bridges damaged by floods. The hearing was on August 6th on this, so it's completing that.
Make a motion to approve the resolution 895-13.
I will second the motion.
It's been moved and second to approve the resolution 895-13. Further discussion? Hearing none, vote by Andrew.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
Lock, aye, motion carried.
We need this, needs to be signed, proposal accepted by the county board at 8:30. Or was part of it?
That's part of the panels that will authorize this.
Yeah, we did this one here.
You already passed this around?
Yeah, we just did that one, so.
Okay, then I'll explain what the loan is, and then you'll have authority to sign. Who's the chair?
Stan.
I didn't hear him.
Okay, this is the Valent Phase 2. And out of the whole, I think the last, from Kathy Showalter, I think the project's getting up toward what, 16 million? Somewhere in there. But,
Can I write on this?
so there's two parts of it, if you, just to recall, the pre-treatment plant and the Osage one. Only the Osage wastewater treatment plant portion could be considered tax exempt bonds. The other, like, you remember the first issue we did was a taxable. That was for the pre-treatment because it's gonna go for Valent. This one here, we went through all the expenditures, John Daniels, I, and Kathy Showalter, reviewed them all, and 6.5 million is the maximum amount that we've seen of expenditures that we can relate to tax exempt. So this is the, even though we know we need about, originally when I wanted to do the project, I wanted to do it in two financings. We're not gonna be able to because we're capped at the 6.5 on tax exempt. And there's gonna be, as costs went up originally on that pre-treatment and everything, that's gonna have to come back for phase 3 financing as soon as we know the bottom line of that late next spring or summer. So this is all of wastewater treatment plant for Osage, 6.5 million. As you'll see on the front page, we're actually only gonna borrow 6,410,000. Right below that, you see a reoffering premium of 88,178. I think we've sold premium bonds in the past where banks pay us more money than the interest rate because they want higher coupons for their portfolio, but they'll give us the money, more money up front. We're actually gonna be getting 6,503,964, but we're only borrowing 6,410,000. Now, if you look on page, the back side, flip all the way to the back, that sort of, I'll show you, that's how we generated the yield column. You got the coupon column and the yield. The yield is the actual effective yield that you're paying on this, but we're gonna let the banks have 2% coupons and 3s. And that's where they're gonna give us $88,000 up front. So we're actually paying interest on a lower amount than the funds that we actually receive. So that's how we generate. And I wanted to keep you at that 6,500,000 plus accrued interest rate, accrued interest. So that way, we're capped under the 6,500,000, but we're only borrowing 6,410,000 instead of 6,500,000. That make sense? So net effective rate, this is a 20-year loan, goes out to 2032, and we will have a net interest rate, true interest cost of 3.31%. So that's sort of the details of the loan. As you can see on the backside of the first page, roughly about $475,000. We've got the first loan. It's the tax loan. We'll come back with the third. And when we get all three together, that's what will certify is the special assessment for Baylet, that they will make their payments on all three loans tabulated together, and then the county won't have any liability, because it'll be all on the assessment of the property. Any questions?
No, we won't have any liability with payments, but
It is a general obligation.
it still
loan.
goes against
It
our
gives-
bonding capacity.
It goes against bonding capacity, and it is, if a general obligation is that's the guarantee is all else. But in this case, we're getting a special assessment valuation against the property. So whoever owns that property, the first thing is the property tax is no different. If they don't, it goes against tax sale, and the tax sales has to pay this.
No, we're
So that's,
still, your crumbs this week,
yeah, it's, I think the bugs, yeah, there were several bugs in that earlier, but it's
well, there's,
still,
well, we're
I mean, yeah, it's,
still.
That's a
meeting-
major project.
Well, yeah, it is, there's
So
meetings
this is
going
the
on,
one
there's
that
a
I
lot
need to-
of
yes, you can sign that and
needs to be
then,
answered.
Test
We've
that.
already approved it.
yeah, by that resolution that, if you pass that resolution from John,
Yep.
that gives you authority after review to sign that. If you could pass it, yeah, if you could run down and just fax that now.
Two more to sign, and I'll fax this to her.
Jeff, what are these?
Those are, okay. The call date is 2020, so we have premiums after the call. And there's a different calculation, but anyway, the call date is you can pay these ahead of time or refinancing after 2021.
Okay, that's what that C
And
is
so what
called.
happens is when we put these is, those are, we get, you'll see we're getting a premium of 102. Well, in calculation is, they're paying us premiums
Or bill.
ahead of time, which
Sometimes there's a first year payment.
after the call date, which means we could pay this all off or refinance before this date, and that throws a big, because they're taking a
Right.
risk, anything after this date. Because they're giving you that money now. Let's say you had all the cash and they paid this off, and I don't know how many of this, but of the 88,000, let's say 40,000 of it is premiums from here on down. What that means is, if you had the cash to pay everything off by this date, you actually, that would be like a bonus to you, that there's a risk to the investor when they do that after the call date.
Because we'll be allowed to pay it off before all
You-
the
you-
interest
you-
is accrued and we'll make it.
Or you could refinance, and let's say rates are lower at that time and you want to refinance. So you could pay those bondholders all off, and they pay the premium for those. And so that's what that C is on all of those after the call. Another thing, here's what I was gonna update, we had a question on, last time I was here about how the legislature was adapting the rollback,
Mhm.
and there's not 100%, but I got a lot of clarification since I was last here. But that 90%, it's gonna go to 95% rollback next year, and then 90% the following year. Well, in the case of Mitchell County, let's say, those 2 years, that short gap that will happen, you will file claims with the state,
For the rebates.
and you'll get a rebate of all of that back. So that, there's no risk of that. And then if they do get credits per tower, those are coming from the state, so that won't be any shortfall here. The only shortfall potentially there is after the second year going into the third, that you're capped at whatever your claim was the previous year. So in the case of these towers, we only have 1 year kicking in into that third year at 5%. So there's 5% of that total 5% increment. And I calculated it's less than $10,000. Potentially, that could be a lot. So is an impact. It's not. It's something I said, we need to, before we do anything more against those values, we wanted to.
Well, they said in the supervisors meeting, if they go past the 3 years and the legislature doesn't re-up it, she assured us, Department of Revenue, that they would probably not give the credit. And we all disagreed that they would probably make another mandate and they would take the credit away. But she wasn't sure about that as the Department of Revenue. She thought if they got rid of them, if they didn't increase the rollbacks, that they would probably if they didn't have the rebate, they wouldn't have the rollback. They didn't have the money for the rebate, they wouldn't get the rollback. And we're like, fine, don't. So once the legislature does the rollback, I don't see them saying, oh, we're not gonna pay that, we're gonna take it away from you. That was one concern that was discussed with the supervisors. The legislature doesn't have the money for the rebates. They're gonna take the rollback away.
But they probably would have the authority.
They could, but I mean, they're gonna need to get reelected too, and that's not a good move once people get used to that 10%.
But I mean, the Department of Revenue would probably have that authority. They calculate all the rollbacks.
So a lot of times it just ends up being another fund mandate.
I would agree.
That was one of the things they talked at ISAC is we'll end up putting, if the money gets short on the state, that they'll end up, we'll just pay it anyway. Or eat it.
Other financing items, is there anything in particular you want to start with? I think we do need to talk about, I think you got a hearings or a construction bid set for the 17th.
Yes.
I did talk, when I talked to you on the phone, you have not had any documents on the financing side.
No.
So if you are going to look at that and award bids, are you paying cash for that, or are you looking at financing?
I talked to Barb this morning, we're probably looking at financing.
If you are, then you'll want to get the hearing started to hold a hearing. So that, you have to borrow money right away, but I would highly advise you, and John Adams spoke to him too, is to get the hearing, set the hearing next week, and whenever your publication deadlines are. No, you put a hearing to do the construction bids, and to do the bidding on the, you did not do a hearing, setting hearing for the financing. Only to look at the bids and have the bidders allowed to go through the construction. That's what you hold in setting hearing. So with that in mind, you do need to get your offer, unless you're paying cash or some other resource. But if you are looking at debt for that, you need to get that hearing set. So if you set it next week on December 9th, is that what your meeting is? 10th. December 10th, it's a 4 and 20 day notice, it's not a 10-day notice. So when could you get it published?
Are we back to a regular, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay. Guess I didn't know last week we were gonna be Tuesday.
So-
Actually, it was Wednesday at noon, but.
So whatever.
I guess that must be new, because I don't recall.
No,
ever
that's been
taking-
that way for several years. The business office closes, that's the problem. They're the ones who set your legals.
But you're probably not having, or you have a meeting Christmas week?
Just like they're closed here on Thanksgiving Friday.
But otherwise you'd do the week
Have a
after.
meeting on the 24th.
But normally not at noon on Wednesday.
Well,
Yeah.
No,
no, 24th or
closed.
We're
We'll
closed.
be meeting on the 23rd then.
Oh, you mean the courthouse?
So whether
24th.
you could publish in time for the
You close on the
23rd
24th.
meeting, or wait till the 31st.
Well, 4 and 20.
Are you open the
45,
31st?
Well, if it comes out on
Yes.
the.
Yeah, and those are the only days we're closed that week, and we don't
Is it
close
4
until noon
working
on the
days or
20th.
4 calendar days?
It's 4 days, not counting the day you publish. Or you can't count the meeting date and the publishing date first. You can only count one.
Correct.
So I don't know, what day would your paper come out?
It's always Wednesday.
18th, so it's 19, 20, 21, and 22.
So you would have, yeah,
Meeting's
that
on the
would,
23rd.
you would have, if you got it published in the 18th, if you want to hold it that day. Our, what, I mean, is the intent, on the 17th, his intent to award bids at that time also? Sorry, not knowing what they are, but.
Well, we have
Till
the soft
next-
costs in their estimate. We kind of got an idea what it could be, but hopefully it's not. You know, did they have 250,000 on that or something like that?
I don't recall.
I guess then the other thing we need for Danos is what is, I know you don't know what bids are, but we need to just have a worst case publication amount. You know, what is, what was it, 300,000 to 400,000 we talking? Or you
Well, I
estimate?
thought the soft costs were 250,000 on deconstruction.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you anticipating construction bid? What's the engineer estimating the whole project's gonna cost?
7.2, wasn't it?
No, the demolition. Pardon?
300,000.
That's what I thought, 300,000 to 400,000. So, I guess what I'm saying is not, and we're not trying to put a number for construction bidders, but I would probably suggest a not to exceed of 500,000, just to publish. So that, you know, you just don't know what it is. And that, the thing is if you publish it low and the bid comes in like 10,000 over, you can't do the project or without redoing the hearing. So
Yeah,
you can always drop it, you just can't raise it.
great.
So I need a number to give the
No,
data.
500,000 would be fine. I mean, because like you say, it's basically just to cover our whatever anyway.
Mhm.
And we have no intention of going that high, but,
In another spot. Yeah,
not to exceed 500,000. I mean, that,
yeah, I just can't.
as I say, we have no intention of being near that high, but that way.
December 10th, set hearing for December 23rd. Not to exceed 500. Okay, I will get him going on that, then get you publication documents. What do you want to tackle next?
Well, okay, let's, are we gonna be basically be borrowing that locally then, or?
It is whatever works the best, whether we could.
I mean, to me, what really makes sense, and maybe it doesn't make sense, I mean, but what makes sense to me is we just go ahead, borrow it locally if we can. And then come next, April, May, when we hold our, hearing, public hearing on doing the GO bonds for the total, that we pay these off, that we pay this off, and we have that as part of the 7.2 number we have to come up with, and
But he said he would
we're gonna go from there. So,
Yeah, so whenever you get to that point of meet, accept bids and whenever you're gonna get it, I'll have to work with Danos to get the terms of how you wanna do, to call it original.
I'm not gonna get in an argument with you.
You may wanna set it up,
Extra the
you know, not knowing how things go, where maybe set it up as a 3 or 5 year call at any time. So
Yeah.
that, you know, cause you can pay that off probably with a levy rate, let's just assume would have been on, you know, say when we did the election, they ran that.
But the way it's coming down,
So,
or am I
you don't
getting?
keep the levy
You're gonna
similar to what we need, even though it might
And
take more time
also,
to do the
the
improvement.
bid will include this cupola
Set that up,
coming
at least so
down
that
at
you're
a
not
cost.
caught in a pickle within 12 months.
Who's Don?
He's the architect for FEH.
Okay.
He met with the contractors, he said that would be part of the demolition bid. That's what he told me.
Is he allowed to make that kind of?
Timing,
He was in charge.
Okay.
did you talk with Danielson anymore?
I haven't talked to him for the last 3 weeks or so. I mean, and the only thing I really need to find out from him yet is when he thinks we can hold that public hearing. Do we have to wait until the 5th of May or later, or?
Before you set the hearing date, it starts on the day it goes in publication.
The 6 months?
Yeah, so you gotta wait 6 months, so if you were gonna set a hearing date with a 10-day notice, that 6 month of when you publish, that goes in the paper, has to be 6 months after the election in November.
Okay, so basically,
So that puts you basically.
now 6 months, does that mean the
180 days.
180 days?
180 days.
Oh.
180, yeah, he said 180 days.
Okay, I mean, we don't want to get caught up that we're 1 day off. I mean, so basically, the following, whenever.
So if you go 180 days from November 5th was the election?
I mean, May 6th is a
November
Tuesday.
5th.
May 6th, we,
Well, that'd be just, that'd be the date that you would call, set
Set
a
it.
hearing date and put a notice in the paper.
and then the notice would go in on the 8th and actually be, that's a 10 and 20, or?
That one is a 10 and 20.
So, okay, that would come out,
But you could have it, actually, you could set, I mean, you could have the paper come out on, technically, it's when it's published in the paper.
Oh,
It's not-
okay.
It's not when you call it in the meeting here.
Okay,
It's when-
so-
It's when the notice gets to the paper is this.
okay, so the 7th of May would be a Wednesday. So that's when basically it would come out in the paper. And so if we would, on April 29th, set it for hearing to be published, like I say, that goes in on May 1st into the paper, I mean, to be published, and it actually is published on the 7th, so we will do that on April 29th then.
I mean, that's too early, so if you waited a week.
But, I
The
mean, I
legal-
don't wanna-
The legal timeline is the first day it's noticed.
But I do not want to let bids, I mean, you know, we can't let a bid on, and nobody can go forward until we really have our financing in hand, so.
That's absolutely
And, you know, basically, the building should be or I mean, the lot should be ready to go by the 15th of April, so we'll be sitting there for a few weeks with, nothing can happen just because of. But that's the way it has to go.
But it's back to where we talked, you know, several months ago. You do have the ability, now that we know where those values are in the wind tip, if you use, like we talked about, 250,000 of local option sales tax, and if you wanted to use the wind turbine tip, the other 250 or around 300,000, it could get to the point where you would have minor, if any, property tax levy.
Well, we've always said that we
I
have
mean,
no intention on taxing the people. We want
I
to
mean,
use.
but normally in a courthouse, every county courthouse has been a property tax levy. It's a rare thing that you could do a courthouse without a levy. 'Cause,
But we wanna break new ground again.
I'm just telling you that you,
Well, we've been
cash
told,
flow wise, you're a rare county that has that ability. And so with the local option and that. Or it's back to, to make that decision. I mean, you don't know, it's just like your last spring with the weather, on roads and bridges. Do you wanna leave that TIF increment for or infrastructure that is not done or doesn't happen? And use your TIF and a part levy? You don't have to make that decision. I mean, that's the things that you need to talk about from now until next May.
And these would be revenue bonds,
No, these would be the same thing as a GO,
because you're using TIF.
but you can use, one thing about GO, you can use any revenue source to pay for it. Just like we did on the one we just completed, we're gonna use special assessment revenue. If you did strictly a local option sales tax revenue bond, we would be limited to just that as the payment. And then you could split it to a revenue bond with a TIF and have two separate loans. They're gonna run, a TIF revenue bond is gonna run 2-3% higher. I don't know if you remember, we talked about that difference. It's about $150,000-$160,000 annually higher payment if you would have to go for a revenue bond. So we would look at, again, doing a GO, just like we did here this morning, to get your lowest rate that's guaranteed back our property taxes, but you've got a cash flow with projections to make it.
But you're saying we would do a hearing, we don't have to do a vote?
The hearing is, it's like what you did over a year and a half ago. It is subject to reverse referendum. That's why it's a 10-day notice.
Alright.
So if you had one and you did get a petition the first time, then you could call an election for in August. If you got a petition. But that's where then you need to let the public know, okay, we've got a route here that you could still do a revenue bond at,
Lots more
That's-
bucks.
was gonna be my question. So if you did get a referendum, then you could just abandon what you've just done before and just go directly to the revenue.
yes, because that is not, I mean, that is a, if you want to take that route. But you'd have to do it on two different revenue notes. One would be a revenue note on the local option. One would be a revenue on the balance of TIF revenue.
Well, if that's our options, I guess those are our options. I mean, my feeling is they're all on the table. Whatever comes,
Mhm.
you take the route you have to go.
I would believe that if the public at all understands that really, here's the two choices. One is, we can do a GO bond for 2 to 3% less interest. The other choice is, if they vote that down, it's 2 to 3% more on a revenue bond, meaning anywhere from 110 to 160,000 a year more in interest. I would have a hard time thinking that they'd even come up with 200 signatures wanting to pay more interest, but then stranger things have happened.
Yeah, but a lot of these people that sign, probably not property owners.
But I mean,
All
why,
they have to be is a voter.
yeah, but I mean,
Well,
Why
doesn't mean
would-
nothing to
but-
them. I mean,
but why would you even sign it though if you don't?
Well, if you
One
did
way.
it, I mean, if you did, I mean, the other thing is you could call for one more election.
Because I've had people tell me they feel like they're being bullied into voting yes.
That they what?
Being bullied into voting yes.
Well, it's a lot of.
Not my words, their
Right,
words.
no, I
But
hear,
it's-
because
but it's
I've
always-
been in that position with you,
Right.
whether it's jails or courthouses, is whatever circumstances brought you to this day, everyone's is different, but
Right.
today, here's the facts of you gotta do something, and here's the cost, A, B, or C. and you lay
It's
it out.
never really about, you're never really voting on, do you want to build this new, or do you want to remodel this or that? It's
Right.
always about the finance. Where is the money coming from? I mean, that's really all that's ever on
And
the ballot.
most of the time, it's the details people, everyone has a different opinion of what style or what size or all of that. But that's really in the elected officials' hands to call for what it is. But the financing of it is here's the public, here's our scenario.
But the thing is, it wasn't in our hands. It came to us from the advisory committee people that chose what we were going to do.
But I mean, the vote is always about the financing.
Right.
That's the only thing.
That's the only thing that the
They
vote
can't
is
talk
about.
about what size it is, how much it's gonna be, it's just will you allow authority to issue bonds on X amount? And that's the only thing, because Iowa does not have the ability to do proposition votes, like California always has Proposition 81. You want this social issue or that social, do we do?
Oh, yeah.
Iowa does not have the legislature has not allowed votes for ideas or this or that. They only allow votes on decisions on property taxes or income tax or local sales tax revenue. Though on taxation, they have the, say, that's what our votes are. It's not an opinion of we want this to happen. We're not a proposition state. There's other states that are, but Iowa is not a proposition state. And a lot of people are confused with that. They say, let me vote on this idea. We want a 2-story building instead of a 1-story. We can't vote on that in Iowa.
Yeah, it's always been about the money, that's all it is. And if we had $7 million sitting in an account somewhere, we could just go ahead and spend it and wouldn't have to have anything. I mean, that's,
Yeah, if you had $7 million, yes, you could.
Well,
Did that fax go through?
I said, come back, let me know, because it was in the second page when I went, and I said, if it don't, come get me. Very happy.
Any other questions, comments on that issue?
essential county purpose.
Which one?
Well,
Now, the demolition is essential county,
right.
but the courthouse is not.
Courthouses are not essential county purposes.
No, that's called general, and when you're general, you can do up to 200,000, or if it goes over that, then you have to go to a vote for a general, and this qualifies for a general purpose.
Yeah.
So general purposes is what you have to take to the ballot. Essential purposes do not need to go to the ballot. So like this courthouse demolition money, if you find that essential purpose in the code is, as long as you legally follow the publication, holding the hearings, and doing the proper procedures, there is no protest by public to stop. Now, a reverse referendum, a 10-day notice, then those are the essential purposes. And so what we're doing on the 10-day notice with the courthouse, what you're talking about next May, that's not an essential purpose going through it. That's going through the urban renewal law one, okay? But back to, if it's truly an essential purpose, those are, the only way is if you mess up legally, then the court looks and says, okay, we stopped it because you didn't do the procedures. But if you do the procedures, there's nothing, protest and stopping or trying to file a lawsuit against it or anything like that. On a clean essential purpose item, you can, like I say, just go through, borrow money and do it. Now, the cash deal is another deal. If you've got cash, all you gotta do is go out and do your public notice for construction bids. So you gotta legally cover that end, but as far as if you got cash to pay for it. Whether you're general purpose or essential purpose or urban renewal law or revenue bonds, the code is all separate in each of those categories. That's why when we start early in the process, which category are we going down to? And a lot of times what I do go back to is you do always get the lowest cost efficient, if we can do general obligation. And you've got, I don't know what I figured it last, you're at 50, I think your debt limit is 53 million. And we're way under that on total debt, under 20. So you have a capacity, it's just if we can use that as a lower rate, even though we're gonna be using TIP revenue or local option, use that so that you got more dollars to do other projects. So pretty straightforward on the demolition. We get, as you get into the courthouse options, you know, whether we wanna do a vote or do it a revenue or do an urban renewal jail. Depends on how the public and you work with them, which one's gonna lay in place, but they all are gonna be ultimately using a different section of the code depending on what you ultimately decide after the hearing. That clear as mud?
Well, these are very interesting times. A lot of, I really feel that we're going to continue to see nationwide some halfway high unemployment numbers. I don't think that we're ever going to be going back to what we had here a few years ago with the economy and that. I think one of the things that we done last week was we authorized up to $100,000 for economic development to do a gas line study. I really feel that we have to try to get industries into this county that basically, to a lot of extent, are food related. Because those can't really be shipped overseas. And yet again, we don't want to have industries that really have a high water use, sewer use. I mean, sewer especially. Outside of what we're doing now, I mean, we don't want to, like a packing plant or something like that. But yet again, we're going to have to try to somehow work with our schools to, a lot of our youth are not getting the employment that they think. They think they have to have a 4-year degree, so on and so forth. I really believe we got to be looking more at the tech area. This is where the community college again, not only Nyack, we tend to forget about Kelmer over there, but they also have a tech program and so forth, and
You
we're
got
gonna
Boston just north of us.
Yep.
yeah, but I mean, we're gonna have to try to convince a lot of our youth that if you really wanna have a halfway chance in life, you may not wanna move out from mom and dad, although they want you to get the hell out of here. For a few years, get your tech degree, start working at, we got companies here that are wanting maintenance people. They need those tech people, and they're not available. And so I think it's imperative that the county at least tries to take a lead along with economic development to present these ideas to our citizens in that. This is a direction that we really feel that there's still some opportunities and so on and so forth. And I don't think that we can just sit back here and think that things are going to happen automatically. And again, it's going to be some think outside of the box. This new transmission line going from northwest Iowa, it's not going to be too far from us. That's a DC powered line, so it needs only 1/10 of the wire size of an AC. I still believe that we'll get more windmills here in the county because some of those options are not being given up. Some were, some weren't. And so, no, it's going to take some planning on our part, and
in comparison to the counties. I mean, your growth is phenomenal, you know, between the wind, between green millers, between Valent and other things potentially coming. 80% of the counties in the state are struggling to get anything that's not used by. So.
And these didn't happen by accident.
No, they didn't.
You know, I think a lot of people really feel that, you know, anybody can,
No, Brenda, with economic development, your director is phenomenal of going out and finding stuff. And it doesn't come, particular, you're up North Central, right? You're not on a 4-lane road. It's amazing the stuff that you've got.
We're just a few miles off.
True,
Scenic
but,
route.
but, I mean, it's not directly on it.
No, I don't.
And what you've been able to capture without, even without that, others shake their head, how does it happen? It's hard work.
we've had this discussion how many times that Brenda just seldom, well, whatever that word is.
Salivate.
Yeah. Thinking about Worth County, I mean, where the Diamond Joe Casino is, that absolutely is an industrial park. I mean, those companies want that exposure. There's 30-some thousand vehicles a day going down that road and so on. And we're still getting the industries and they're not. And there's, I mean, again, there's a reason for that. And,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, it really should be them getting them and not us in a lot of respects. But we got an aggressive board here and we're gonna continue to take calculated risks.
Well, we gotta go out on the limb to get the apple.
Yeah, there's only a few that fall for
Right,
that.
and
Oh, it's been an interesting journey.
Any other issues?
I'll wait around, there'll be something.
We'll let you know.
No, we'll have to get through this
Yeah.
other.
But as far as today, any other, I mean, we just sort of left with any topic that you want to talk about, not that I know of. You know,
Does the public have any questions for Jeff?
But I had a question of you. I guess I haven't been at any meetings, so I didn't know. This May 6th, are you talking about voting or what? Or putting it on a
No.
ballot or what? Or what's the May 6th date?
It's our board meeting.
The May 6th date would be one that would go in, when the paper would have it published.
May 7th. May 6th is just our board meeting day.
Oh, okay, May 7th, and I'm sorry, May 7th. That's when it would come out in the paper
For
That what?
a hearing,
for publishing a hearing.
publishing a hearing to
Right.
do an urban renewal, urban renewal.
Oh,
bond.
okay. So
So-
that's what
sort
you're
of-
talking about, a reverse
Yeah,
referendum.
that
I
same
didn't
thing
know.
that was done, 18 months ago.
Yeah, I didn't know what you
So
were talking about.
that's the, you cannot call
Right. for 6
another
months,
hearing
right.
6 months. A public notice has to be 180 days before it goes to the paper if they want to try that route
Yeah.
again. So
That's all, yeah. Well, the other question I'd ask, you know, and the promise was made, I mean, I've read that over and over, no property taxes, and yet, the things that have been done to date, for instance, all the payments to the architects and whatever expenses have been incurred to date that have been paid for, weren't those coming out of property taxes?
To begin with, but the
So-
bonds, we can replace that
So-
with.
Do
Until
you,
it converts to
right, no, I just
financing,
wondered.
so it would be.
I wondered if you intended
Transferring
to,
option sale?
go back and repay that
Right.
when the funds were available, because
Right.
Jeff had made the comment that you wouldn't have to,
You wouldn't, that's true, you
you
wouldn't
know,
have to.
and
No,
so,
but I would intend to repay it.
but, you know,
Why
cause that,
wouldn't, why wouldn't we? Use
well, I don't know, because it's quite a while before TIF funds are available. I mean, after you pay the road bonds, and then you have to make the payments on this, and to have extra money, That's all I was asking, because the
Well,
promise has been
We've
made.
got a lot of options yet. I mean, come 2015, we can refinance the first set of windmill things.
Because those are on a short term.
Yeah, I mean, both of those, we
They're
tried
callable
to,
then?
we
Yes.
tried to do a short whatever, just because, again, not to pay a lot of interest, which really in hindsight, we should have had a little more time so we had more money to work with, but then if you don't have any projects, you don't need it, you don't need it in that respect. But,
The other question I'd ask Jeff, and because you're the person that sets this all up, and Stan, I think, mentioned to me earlier that the taxes, the assessed valuation, well, the levies, were looked at $24 a thousand. And neither of the school districts have been at that amount since the bonds, And then furthermore, was it taken into consideration by you, the couples? And then also the Kelmer debt, which was brand new. I mean,
Yes,
Lowell
all of
County.
those are considered.
And
Well,
then,
what-
of course, now the instructional levy, that is something that wasn't taken into consideration at the time because it wasn't something that came out, right?
But, yeah, those are
Yeah.
outside of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point is that I just wondered if the bond payments were set up because it looks like, and I've talked to Barb, that there was substantially less coming in than she had anticipated at budget time each year on account of the schools. On account of the total levy,
Yes, that
And
is.
so
The
you.
Department of Revenue sets those each
Okay.
year, and so they did lower those, so that reduced the estimates. And the bond payments were set up, once we got ratcheted up to full, we were at only using 60% of that value. So they're all estimates, everything is estimates, there's nothing locked into the payment that, based on that value, other than we had to use the first amount
Yeah, I
early,
understand that.
and we didn't have enough, we had to borrow
Right.
capitalized interest. So we knew we were short for the first 2.5 years.
But it's been short each year on account of some of those things for
But
the
now
schools
they're
and
gonna
the-
have an excess this year.
And the levy.
Yes, now we're into that year, I went over with Barb, where there's gonna be a few $100,000 excess now.
Okay.
So then you have the ability, do you wanna take that excess and roll it back and cover what you had to cover out of the general? The board could make that decision
Well-
to make those shortfalls.
I just know.
But
that-
you're right, it was
Yeah,
short.
It's always been in Stan's column, and I don't know that the other board members have said that, but it's always been your column, Stan, that there'd be no property taxes involved in the whole project.
we've always said that.
I mean, I've got that, yeah.
We've always said that.
Yeah.
We had no intention of using
Yeah.
property taxes.
So that was my question, because so far, property taxes has been paying for things, yeah.
See,
That's because I'm a property taxpayer.
Right,
But my concept is that the county should be run like a normal business, if possible. And what we have, I realize this doesn't make some people happy. I'd just as soon not have this printed and this and that, because it always causes us problems in Des Moines. But for the benefit of us in the county here, if we can utilize every dollar of the TIF in the county, because the state backfills the school portion, 87.5%. Yes, the school doesn't get that, but if we weren't doing something, the school would have not got any increment. I mean, this is, again, the increments, so the school is benefiting, but in reality, here is the state coming, the school taxes in the rural area, they've changed a little bit since the windmills have come, but it used to be 50% of my property taxes went to the schools, if you were in the rural area. Well, of that 50%, 87.5% of that was being backfilled by the state. So you're at 40-some percent. This is 40-some percent extra money that is coming into the county that other counties don't have an opportunity to utilize. So that's putting us
oh, I understand,
leaps
Tim.
and bounds ahead of everybody else. And this is what I try to do when I try to look at the whole county picture, is how can we continue to utilize the TIF windmills, or wherever the TIF is, to the best of our advantage, because in the long run, it might not help us today, it might not help us 3 years from now, but we are setting up a basis that come 20 years from now, this county is going to be in such good shape compared to the other counties because of what we have done now. A lot of the planning that we're doing is not immediate planning. So many people, all they want to do is plan for the next year or two. And I try to look at long-range planning. How can this affect 10, 15, 20 years out? And this is exactly, TIF is a very big key to it. Another one is, again, coming back to what we said earlier, we don't want to make a big issue of it, but we've got to do something on this gas thing. That's all there is to it. If we're going to, continue to grow in that, it just has to happen. And
Is the gas line, is that the one, Stan, that you were involved in originally?
well, things have changed, and I'm not.
Well, I
really-
mean, they've loaned the money, so it should be
Yeah.
more transparent about what it's for. but
Well-
It's a study. It's a study on a route for a gas line. You
There's-
gotta- you
For
gotta have
the
that.
new project,
Well,
Well,
any project.
yeah, but for the project.
no, we've got to, like I say, there's
Well, we're confirming
confidentiality
or denying
agreement.
it, but-
There's confidentiality agreements
Right.
still in place and that, we've got to be careful.
But that's always come up, and even
No.
at every meeting,
No.
like grain millers up
You
there,
gotta
they're
make your case,
probably at the,
right?
I probably shouldn't turn the payment off, but, there's no gas. I mean, if they wanted to expand, what's gonna happen if Bell wants to expand? I mean, yeah,
Well,
it's-
didn't they bring the loop in from the south?
That's still, that doesn't necessarily give them expansion.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then now if the town wants to grow, gee, I like natural gas for heat,
Ethanol plant, they want to-
ethanol, you know? Yeah, we got two great big gas lines running across the county, but we can't use it, you know, and
Yeah, one's raw gas that you can't utilize for your house, and,
so, I mean, we're a forward-looking county, I would say. And, we need to keep going that route, if we're gonna continue.
So, anyway, that's on GO bonds on May 7th, the publication will go in the paper for.
it would be for GO
Yeah,
bonds.
okay,
And
and the
if it
amount of
gets-
7.2.
And if it's got to a public vote and got defeated in that, it would be revenue bonds. And it would just be paying higher interest, so I mean, there's no.
But that isn't going to a vote,
That doesn't-
unless there is a reverse
Reverse
referendum.
referendum.
Okay, that's, yeah.
And I would strongly,
I know in my life, if I could save $150,000 a year on a payment, I surely would do it, you know.
yeah, I wouldn't sign to put it up for a vote to pay more interest, but obviously there would be people that would.
The longer it's delayed, the more we spend out here.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the other thing, we gotta talk with the
Court.
the owner here in two places, because we're not gonna be, our lease is up in October, both places, so,
Well, you'll be here longer than that, though.
oh yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
redo them, either we
18-month
extend it or
construction,
redo
even
it.
after,
And are we gonna be able to
If
get
the
it at
wood
the same
perform,
number?
You know, I've been out here almost a year now.
And you know, it's not me, but I did read in the paper, I mean, there's some people that say, well, this is fine, you know, because they don't know, I mean, there are people out there talking about consolidation, you know, of county government, and my gosh, when I was on the board, they were constantly talking about reinventing county government, about putting offices together, an auditor and recorder was put together in, I think, 1 or 2 counties, Lowell, you know, I know one
At
county,
least two.
when I was on the
Jeff's
board.
County
yeah.
now is, Woodbury County.
Woodbury, Marshall,
And there
Is there
was
one more?
I think one
There was
more.
one over there that Bev, she married Lyle Zeman, and it was put together way back when.
Woodbury.
No,
That was the very first one.
yeah, but there was, she wasn't Woodbury.
Pat Gill.
I don't remember what,
But yeah, that was the one that I knew of first.
yeah. And, you know, people have talked about, they could petition for that. I mean, a small county, you know, you save money there, you do away with one less elected official. Actually, if all the walls were knocked out, you could have a general business manager, and that's the way county should have been set up. I mean, you know, we wouldn't need elected officials. You'd run it like a business, you know?
Well,
But you're still gonna be in the same county, and you're gonna basically have to provide the same services. I mean, this idea that people keep on explaining, well, courthouse here is gonna be closed, you're gonna be down to Mesa City.
I'm not saying it, you know.
No, but a lot of people do. And the fallacy with that is you need the same number of people to do the same job.
One county can't redo what another county's doing.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't absorb you and it's gonna work dipsy-dandy.
And then these people are gonna have to travel, so it's gonna cost them more out of their pocket.
The only thing you could really save is, again, you could get rid of a couple supervisors if you,
Well, that, yeah,
if you merged, whatever, but the
you know,
rest of them would have to be.
courthouses originally were, and counties were so that people could get to them in one day with a horse and buggy. And you know, that's,
we
people do
still have
everything.
we still have horse and buggy.
I know.
They came back.
People do things online now and, you know, and, yeah, I mean, I'm, you know,
There's a certain amount of stuff you can't do on the.
Did you ask me?
yeah.
Well,
They didn't
I
discuss.
can't remember who it was that was explaining it to me, but you'd have to change the Iowa Constitution to get all that done.
Yeah.
And the legislature's not looking at that.
Well, the
so-
legislature would have to do it. And let's face it, they aren't about to.
No, and they're not going, and I think Butler County Supervisor said they wanted to do away with a couple of townships down there. That was fine, as long as it's not our township.
Yeah,
And so that never went anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you.
So I think we gotta work with what the facts we got before us and run with it.
That's good discussion.
Yeah. If something changes, well, then it changes over here.
Anybody from the public have any other? If not, we're gonna.
What about the Elder Bridge?
That's not on the agenda.
Oh,
It was on this
it's
agenda.
on this agenda.
Well, you got all
Last week's.
You must have all
No.
That's what was here.
that could be over.
Does it say December 3rd on the top?
Yep.
No, it's laying on the chair, huh?
No, no.
No.
It's not on our,
Well,
sorry.
that was me.
Anyway,
I don't
okay,
have it.
that's apparently not in there.
Yeah, we will recess in and meet at County Care.